When I warned my fiancé, "If you go to our city house with him, we're over," I didn't raise my voice. I said it quietly, almost like I was talking to myself. There was no anger, no shouting, just that hollow calm that comes when you already know the truth. But wish you did done, she stood by the window that evening, her phone glowing in her hand, pretending not to hear me. Outside, the city lights were just starting to flicker alive, thousands of windows glowing like tiny secrets. I'd spent years building this life, the glass apartment, the rooftop dinners, the designer silence, but in that moment, none of it felt mine anymore. I had learned, painfully, that silence can lie louder than words. When someone starts saying less, it's not peace, it's distance. And when a woman you love begins to avoid your eyes, it's not shyness, it's guilt wearing patience as a disguise. I didn't say anything else that night. I just watched her leave the room, her perfume lingering in the air like a promise that was never meant to last. Sometimes, love doesn't end in a fight. Sometimes, it ends in a quiet room with one person staring at the door, realizing they've already been left behind. Asterisk, I wasn't born into this life of glass walls and polished marble floors. I built it piece by piece, deal by deal. Late night after late night, my name, my company, my success, they didn't arrive with luck. They came with silence, discipline, and the kind of loneliness that success always hides behind its shine. When I first met Ria, she was nothing like the women I usually met at the city's rooftop parties or business events. She was simpler, not in mind, but in manner. She smiled like she actually meant it. Her laughter wasn't polished or practiced. It came out in uneven bursts, the kind that makes you feel seen. We met at an art exhibit I was sponsoring. I had gone there mostly for networking. She was there because she loved the colors. When we talked, I remember she said something like, "You know, some people look at paintings and see money. Others see stories." That line stayed with me. For the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like a man in a tailored suit. I felt human. Our first months together were quiet but full. We'd sit on my balcony at night, sipping coffee while the city buzzed below us. She would talk about small things, her students, her dreams of opening a design studio, the smell of rain in her hometown. I didn't talk much, but she didn't seem to mind. She said she liked my calm, that it made her feel safe. I mistook that for love. The truth is, I was never good at reading emotions. I could read people in boardrooms, their hesitation, their lies, their confidence, but when it came to the woman sitting across from me at breakfast, I couldn't tell when something was changing. After 6 months, I asked her to move in. She hesitated at first, said she liked her small rented flat near the art district, said it helped her stay connected to herself, but I insisted. I wanted to take care of her, to give her comfort. Looking back now, I realized that's when I began confusing love with control, thinking I could protect someone by keeping them close, when all they needed was space. Our apartment was beautiful but cold, all white marble, glass, and soft gold lights. It looked perfect in pictures, but it didn't smell like life. No cooking, no laughter, no clothes lying around. Just a designer silence that I had grown used to. But that started to suffocate her. At first, she tried to bring warmth, fresh flowers, a small painting she made herself, music playing while she cooked. But I was too busy for that kind of peace. My phone never stopped ringing. Meetings blurred into dinners, and dinners into conferences. I told myself I was doing it for us, for the life we'd share later, but later never came. It just kept moving further away. One evening, I came home early. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I noticed she had changed her perfume. It was lighter, sweeter, new. "Big day tomorrow?" I asked. She shrugged. "Just meeting an old friend from college. He's in the city for a week." I nodded, pretending it didn't sting. I told myself it was harmless. Everyone has friends. But I also knew something had shifted. You can tell when affection turns into obligation. When she hugs you, but her body leans away ever so slightly. When she laughs at your jokes out of memory, not amusement. Still, I didn't confront her. I buried it under more work, more meetings, more silence. Because the truth is, I was afraid of losing her, and even more afraid of admitting that I already was. Ria started spending more time working on her projects. Some evenings, she wouldn't come home until late, blaming traffic or last-minute deadlines. I never accused her. Instead, I watched, listened, waited. The city house came up in one of our conversations a few weeks later. I had bought it years ago, a smaller property near the river, meant to be a weekend retreat. I rarely went there. It held too many memories of my earlier struggles, nights when I couldn't afford help, when I cooked noodles over the gas stove while drafting business proposals. Ria had always said she wanted to visit that house, said it had character, said she wanted to see the place where my story began. But something in the timing felt wrong when she brought it up again. Right after I saw messages from that same college friend flashing on her phone. "Maybe we should spend a weekend there," she said casually one night. I looked up from my laptop. She smiled, that practiced kind of smile that hides a truth underneath. "I mean, I could go first, clean it up a bit. You've been too busy." It was such a small thing to say, so ordinary. But my gut twisted. I didn't want to be the jealous, possessive man, the one who checks phones and asks for explanations. I wanted to believe her. But when trust starts to crack, even small words echo loudly. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake beside her, listening to the hum of the city outside, wondering when love had turned into guessing games. She moved slightly in her sleep, her back toward me. I wanted to reach out to pull her closer, but my hand stopped midway. Because something told me once you start reaching for someone who's already walking away inside, no amount of closeness will keep them. I knew then that a moment was coming, one that would test not just her loyalty, but my strength to face the truth. It's strange how love doesn't collapse all at once. It fades like city light during dawn, slowly, quietly, without permission. You don't notice it leaving until you wake up one morning and realize you've been living beside a stranger who used to feel like home. The weeks that followed were like that, subtle, uneasy, filled with things left unsaid. Ria began moving differently. Not physically, but emotionally. Her words became shorter. Her eyes avoided mine more often. And when she spoke, it was always about work, her new projects, her independence. I admired her ambition. Truly, I did. But deep down, I sensed something else blooming beneath it. A need to pull away, to detach from the world we had built together. She started dressing differently too. Not that I ever tried to control what she wore, but I noticed the change. Softer colors replaced with sharper ones. Casual laughter replaced with measured confidence. Her phone, once left casually on the table, now followed her everywhere, even to the bathroom. I remember one night clearly. We were sitting at dinner, barely talking. The sound of cutlery felt louder than usual. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled faintly, and put it face down. "Who was that?" I asked quietly. She looked up, slightly startled. "Just a friend from college." She nodded, almost too quickly. "Yes, you're being suspicious again." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I didn't know I was." She sighed, pushing her plate away. "This is what I mean. You don't trust me. You think everything is about betrayal." Her words stung, not because they were cruel, but because they weren't entirely wrong. I was losing trust not just in her, but in myself. I didn't know when to believe anymore. After that night, I tried to make things better. I surprised her with dinner plans, asked about her projects, listened more. But her attention drifted somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't follow. Sometimes she would laugh softly while texting, her face glowing from the phone screen. That light, that glow, it used to be mine. Then came the day she mentioned the city house again. "Have you thought about letting me go clean it up this weekend?" she asked one evening. "It'll be good to have it ready if we ever want to spend time there." Her voice was casual, her tone innocent, but my instinct screamed louder than her words. I stared at her, searching for honesty in her face. She smiled back, calm, confident, rehearsed. "Sure," I said finally. "Take the keys." "But Ria," she paused, halfway through reaching for her phone. "Yes," I looked at her directly. "If you go there with him, we're over." The words came out steady, almost to calm. There was no tremor in my voice, no trace of jealousy, just the stillness of a man who has seen enough to know when truth is standing right in front of him. Her expression froze for a second, then softened into something defensive. "What are you talking about? You'd think I'd do that?" "I think," I said quietly, "you've already decided to." She scoffed. "This is absurd. You're making up stories in your head." "Maybe," I said, "but stories don't come from nowhere." She didn't reply. She just walked away, muttering something under her breath. The air between us felt colder that night. She slept facing the window, her phone hidden under her pillow. The next morning, I woke up early and watched her getting ready. Her movements were careful, almost deliberate. She wore a white shirt, jeans, simple earrings. She looked beautiful, heartbreakingly so. "Going to work?" I asked. She nodded without meeting my eyes. "Yes, don't wait up." The sound of the door closing behind her echoed longer than it should have. For hours, I sat there, pretending to focus on my laptop, but my mind kept circling back to that city house, the empty one by the river. Around noon, I called the caretaker. "Has anyone been there lately?" I asked casually. He paused. "Yes, sir. Mrs. Rhea came by yesterday to check the place. She said she might visit again today." "Was she alone?" I asked, trying to sound calm. The man hesitated, then said quietly, "No, sir. There was a gentleman with her. Said he was helping her move some things." I thanked him, hung up, and just sat there, still, silent, staring at nothing. It's strange how the mind works when the heart is breaking. It doesn't explode. It doesn't even cry right away. It just goes numb, like you're watching your own life from the outside. For the next few hours, I couldn't move. My phone kept lighting up with messages from work, reminders of meetings, deals, numbers, things that once made me feel alive. But none of it mattered. All I could think about was that small house by the river, and the sound of her laughter that probably filled it now, not with me, but with him. That evening, when she came home, she acted like nothing had happened. She greeted me, smiled, kissed my cheek. "How was your day?" she asked lightly. "Quiet," I said. "Mine too," she replied, turning away quickly. She forgot one small thing, though the scent of her perfume had changed again. This time, it was faintly mixed with something else, something that didn't belong to me. Over the next few days, I became quieter, not colder, just quieter. I didn't ask questions anymore. I didn't check her phone or her messages. I didn't want proof. Proof doesn't heal. It only confirms what your soul already knows. One night, while she was in the shower, I walked out to the balcony. The city below looked restless, lights blinking, traffic humming, life moving on without caring who was breaking upstairs. I leaned on the railing, breathing in the cold air. That's when I realized the worst kind of loneliness isn't being alone. It's being with someone who no longer sees you. When she came out, wrapped in a towel, she glanced at me and smiled faintly. "You're quiet these days," she said. I nodded. "Maybe I've said enough." She looked confused, but didn't ask more. We lived like that for another week, together, yet apart, sharing space, but not connection. Every time she left the apartment, I wondered if she was heading to that house again. I never followed. I never asked. I simply waited for her to make her choice. Then, one evening, while clearing her drawer, I found a folded note. It wasn't addressed to anyone, but I recognized her handwriting. It said, "Some decisions break people. Others free them." I don't know which one this will be. I didn't need to read more. That single line said everything she couldn't. The next morning, I placed the house keys on the table. She noticed them when she came out of the bedroom. "What's this?" she asked. I looked up from my coffee. "You don't need to hide anymore. Do what you feel you must." She frowned, pretending not to understand. "You're talking in riddles." "No," I said softly. "Just truth, spoken quietly." For the first time, she didn't try to argue. She just stared at me, maybe realizing that the silence between us wasn't anger anymore. It was acceptance. When she finally walked out that day, I didn't stop her. I didn't ask where she was going. I simply whispered to myself, "Let it happen." Love doesn't die when someone betrays you. It dies the moment you stop waiting for them to be who they once were. And as I sat there in that cold, perfect apartment, I realized something. Maybe love wasn't about holding on. Maybe it was about having the strength to let go before you lose yourself to. It was a Friday evening when the truth stopped hiding. I remember the city sky was painted in orange and gray. The kind of evening that feels heavy, not because of weather, but because something in you knows it's about to end. I left the office early that day, something I hadn't done in months. I told my assistant I wasn't feeling well. She smiled politely. But I think she saw the exhaustion that had nothing to do with work. The drive to the river house was long. I don't know what made me go there exactly. Maybe curiosity, maybe pain disguised as hope. The closer I got, the quieter everything became. The sounds of traffic faded into the hum of tires on an empty road. When I reached the gate, I saw her car parked outside, the same silver sedan I'd bought her 2 years ago when she got her first big art project. I remember how happy she was back then, hugging me with tears in her eyes. That memory used to make me smile. But now, seeing that car sitting there, it felt like a ghost from another life. I turned off the engine and sat for a moment, watching the soft lights through the window. Someone was inside. 2 shadows moved, one familiar, one not. I didn't rush in. I just sat there, breathing slowly, because part of me already knew that what I was about to see wasn't going to surprise me. It's strange when betrayal finally arrives. It doesn't explode. It just confirms a silence that's been waiting too long. I got out of the car, walked toward the gate. The gravel crunched under my shoes, the only sound in the evening air. I could smell faint traces of food, music playing softly inside. Not our music, something new. The front door was unlocked. I stepped in quietly. The living room was lit with warm yellow light. The table had 2 glasses of wine, half empty. Her laughter came from the kitchen, soft and familiar. Then his voice followed, a man's tone, low and relaxed. I didn't move right away. I stood there, frozen between disbelief and calm. My heart wasn't racing. It was steady to steady, like it had been preparing for this moment. Ria came into view first, holding a bowl, smiling at him. She looked younger somehow, lighter. When she finally noticed me standing there, her face went pale, the bowl slipping slightly in her hands. She whispered. The man beside her turned too awkward, startled. He stepped back a little. I looked at her, not him. You left the door open, I said quietly. I thought I'd check if everything was all right. Her lips trembled. This isn't what it looks like. I gave a faint smile. Then tell me what it is. She looked at him, then back at me. We were just talking, cooking dinner. I nodded slowly. And the wine? Celebration, she said weakly. For what? She hesitated, eyes darting toward the man. For friendship. For old times, her voice cracked at the last word. I walked past her, placed my keys on the counter. The man cleared his throat, mumbling something about leaving. You should, I said gently, without looking at him. This isn't your place to explain. He nodded and quickly left, the sound of the door closing echoing in the silence. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The smell of food hung in the air, but everything else felt frozen. She stood there, arms folded, eyes wet but defiant, like someone caught in a lie who still wants to protect their dignity.